Rivers. They flow on and on. This river here is the River Frome. It is steady, quiet, and shaped by the gentle slopes of the Cotswolds. The waters here flow inevitably onwards. I was born about 20 minutes from here, in Bristol. Growing up here, you learn how the water connects everything. Bristol itself was built on global trade and the British Empire, which were only possible because of its proximity to the water. It is because of this connection that I am here today. But my family history belongs to a place whose entire trajectory was altered by the same empire that built the world around me. My family's home country is Nepal. It holds a proud, distinct title in Southern Asia, the nation that was never colonised. Yet, beneath the heavily romanticised facade of this historic independence lies a quieter, more devastating truth. The conclusion of the Anglo-Nepali War in 1816 did not preserve Nepali freedom, but rather, it introduced a system of pseudo-colonialism. By leaving the domestic governance intact, while systematically stripping the nation of its strategic territories and transforming its young men into a pipeline of elite, low-cost military labour, the British Empire executed a brilliant geopolitical cheat, granting the illusion of independence while extracting the lifeblood of a nation. Thousands were killed in this war. It lasted from 1814 to 1816. The conclusion of the war was with the stroke of a pen on the Treaty of Sugauli. The British East India Company had left Kathmandu's rulers on their thrones, but they amputated the nation's power. Nepal was forced to surrender 1/3 of its territory. They lost Kumaon and Garhwal in the west. They lost Sikkim in the east. But most devastatingly, they lost the Terai lowlands, the fertile agricultural region that fed the country and funded the treasury. On paper, Britain recognised Nepal as independent. In practice, they turned it into a landlocked buffer state. Nepal was legally barred from hiring any Western advisors and banned from forming alliances with outside superpowers. Britain placed an official to watch the Nepalese courts and make decisions from the back seats. A pseudo-colony. My grandma is a very patriotic woman. She has always seen a nation that prided itself on never bowing to a foreign flag. And she's right. But by growing up here in Bristol, I began to realise that the history she clung to and loved so much was deeply complicated. My grandma sees a flag that never fell. She sees the legendary bravery of the Gurkhas as a source of immense pride. But walking through the streets of Bristol, a city built in an empire, I started to look at that same history through a different lens. They took that genuine indigenous pride and weaponized it through the martial race theory. This was a colonial pseudoscience that categorized specific Nepali hill tribes as inherently warlike and fiercely loyal. I realized that the British didn't need to conquer Nepal to control it. They didn't need to take the throne. They just needed to take the reins. The pride my grandma holds is real, but it was used against her. By leaving Nepal nominally independent, the British created a perfect, isolated laboratory for breeding the world's most fierce and low-cost soldiers, entirely insulated from the anti-colonial rebellions waking up the rest of South Asia. There is an irony here of growing up in a city, like Bristol, built on the back of a global empire, while receiving an education that looks entirely inward. In school, we are taught British, American, and European history as if the rest of the world existed in a vacuum. By leaving out complex, messy realities of how Britain interacted with places like South Asia, the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South America, our collective understanding of the world is intentionally diminished. We learn nothing of how Britain used the 1816 Treaty of Sugauli to quietly pull the strings of Nepal, just as we learn nothing of how they used the 1890 Heligoland Zanzibar Treaty to turn a sovereign African island into a British protectorate. The British state deliberately blots out this information to ignore the darker sides of the empire, hiding how British interference destabilized and controlled both colonies and technically independent nations alike. This system alienates people like me, leaving those of us with roots in other places disconnected from our own rich histories and forcing us to forget the very stories that brought us here. Nepal preserved its sovereignty. They did not have to suffer in the short term as much as colonized countries did. But at what cost? They remained isolated in a developing South Asia. They lost huge swaths of fertile land, and they had to protect an empire that never really protected them.